Hello again, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me again. My name is Brandy, and I'm from Brandy Gale Health and Fitness. And tonight is part 4 of my garden series. We're going to talk about prepping your soil for planting. So, excuse me. So far we've talked about just kind of general overview and how much work a garden is. Even though it is enjoyable and you get to enjoy your fruits of your labor, it is a lot of work. Then we went over finding a spot with sun for your vegetable garden, and we talked about what kinds of beds there are, if you want to do a raised or a flat bed, and we talked about preparing your spot for planting. And now today we're going to talk about the soil. So yesterday, of course, I talked about preparing your spot for the garden, which meant that you needed to remove any vegetation or anything that was already there. Pardon me. So tonight, I want to talk about getting your soil ready to plant. So, because if you're doing a flat bed or one that's in the ground where you've dug up your dirt and you're just going to plant your garden directly into the dirt, you need to either, there's two schools of thought. You can either rototill it, excuse me, rototill it and stir up the dirt, make it loose, because compact dirt makes it harder for those roots to go down. And the other school of thought is that there's a no-till garden method now, and that is that you're stirring up just those top 3 or so inches of soil, and then it's leaving all of the deep down stuff where the worms and everything are causing natural compost are already down there. So you just need to stir up the last bit, because if you go any deeper, then it will stir up more weed seeds, and your garden will have more weeds. However, there are several arguments both ways on that, so make sure that you do your research before you decide which way you want to go, because I had never heard of the no-till until just recently, and so I've kind of been doing a little bit of reading on it, and it seems kind of cool, but like I said, I've also found conflicting arguments for it. So just make sure that you make a well-informed decision before you decide on that. So I ended up, after we removed all the vegetation from our area, we did the raised bed, and we did end up digging up some of, of course we dug up some of it, but then we didn't rototill. So I don't know like I said, it's your choice if you want to do a deep rototill or if you want to do just the topsoil rototill. Either way, for the in-ground garden, you're going to need to add manure or compost to it. Now, manure already has nitrogen built into it, and compost does not. So keep in mind that if you're doing compost, that you may need to add nitrogen. And again, there's research out there on that, and I'm not sure exactly what the nitrogen does in the soil, but I know that it helps your plants grow. So it is something that is needed for your plants. Okay, then moving on to the second part. For a raised bed, like what I did, we cleared the dirt, or cleared everything that was there, and we installed the raised bed. We put the landscaping bricks along it, like I said, and then we ended up using a mixture of topsoil and manure together to fill it in. So I ended up buying 3 bags of topsoil to each bag of manure that I added in, or vice versa. So I used a 3-to-1 combination, so 3 bags of topsoil to 1 bag manure, and I just mixed it all together. I would dump them, and then I would mix them together, and then when I was all done, I used a big rake and one of the flathead rakes, and used the back side of it to kind of level the garden out. So one thing I do want to tell you is make sure you do not use potting soil to either supplement your in-ground garden or in your raised bed, because potting soil is especially made to hold water and moisture, and that may lead to your plants becoming moldy. So you don't want something that is going to retain all that moisture in your actual garden beds, because there's enough drainage and things like that already, and because the area is wide enough, there's enough water in that ground that your plants have plenty of sources to pull the water from. And you will still have to water your garden, of course. You have to keep an eye on the soil or whatever, but just to let you know that you don't want to fill those in with potting soil, because a lot of times I think people think that potting soil is probably the best for it, and it would be if you were planting a container garden, but we are talking about doing an in-ground bed. And then, like I said, the raised bed that I'm doing was just directly on top of the dirt. There was no layer in between, so you don't need any of that potting soil or anything, because it will have plenty of drainage on its own. So now that we have gotten through all of that, now you are ready to plant. So tomorrow I will come back on and talk to you about planting and different planting methods and the best way to plant your plants. See you tomorrow night.